My name is Todd Sheets, and I'm the host of Nightwatch Radio. It's been about 10 years now I've been doing Nightwatch, and it's an actual radio show. We started out on terrestrial radio and stayed there, as well as the internet. I mean, now we've branched out. We do internet radio as well. But for about 10 years now, we've been going full force. We've got affiliates in several countries. We're on like 404 stations worldwide, including the BBC. We're the number one overnights in Australia, Sydney and Melbourne, the cities of Sydney and Melbourne. It was pretty exciting because, you know, when I first started, my mentor was Art Bell. He kind of pushed me to do this, and we've continued on and we've stayed with it for a long time, and I've seen the trends come and go. And mainly it was because I was a horror filmmaker. I made horror films, and I just had this huge love for the supernatural and the paranormal and things, but I'd never directly been involved until about, the time I started the show. And then people were inviting me along to become part of what they were experiencing. And that's how I met the Ghost Hunters. I'm really good friends with Jason and Grant, and we're, kind of family really, because I met them pretty much, they were doing a pilot for the Sci-Fi Channel, and I was on my first year of the radio show, and we hit it off, and they started taking me around, and I started doing investigations with them around the country at places that you could only dream of. I mean, these places are pretty amazing, and that's when I was working at a location, I believe it was haunted, called the Catacombs Haunted House here in Kansas City. And not only did I experience some of the most incredible activity you could ever experience there, I also was experiencing things with Jason and Grant while we were out, and finding things like in the St. Augustine's Lighthouse, hearing children laughing at 3 a.m. when there's obviously no children there. It was just a crew and us. So there were some really interesting things that I've experienced, and then I started really becoming a believer at that point, more so than just like, hey, I like ghost stories and I like, the paranormal and movies and things and books. I always read a lot of books about werewolves and things, but this was beyond that. This was things I was actually experiencing these ghosts, and it was pretty cool. Or whatever they are, whatever they might be. For me, really, the radio show is a weekly deal. We do it once a week. It may go to more days than that as things progress because, we're picked up on so many networks. But really, we live this stuff 24 hours a day. Once you experience this and you get into it, every day is an adventure. And we're constantly exploring and finding new avenues, as you can, imagine. We've gone to so many different states here in the United States with so many incredible locations, and I've really learned so much. I've learned about shadow people, and I've learned about cryptozoology. I'm learning about Bigfoot and stuff right now, and I'm learning more about the Beast of Bray Road and things like that. And not only do our guests bring us a lot of this information, we've met so many incredible people through the show, but by inviting us along, we experience what they experience, and we are able to see things firsthand. And I like to look at things very open-minded. I don't have an agenda. And that's, I think, very important in the study of any paranormal research, any kind of paranormal field, whether it's Bigfoot or UFOs. And paranormal is only used, I guess, as a term because it's above and beyond what is considered normal. But I think you have to be incredibly open-minded and have no agenda. That means that you don't bring some kind of a philosophy to the table that you're going to stick to no matter what. Because I think that's part of the problem even with science today, is so many people, they have one viewpoint, and it's really hard to change that. So I think if you come in with no agenda, for instance, on Nightwatch, when we have a guest, they are the focus and they are the star of that moment, and we give them full access to that stage, and we don't push an agenda. We ask them their philosophies, their ideas, their belief systems, what their projects are, what they are doing, and their theories, because everything right now is a theory. And we don't argue, we take it all in, because who's to say what's right and wrong at this point? This is a very, very, up until a few years ago, no one would even mention ghosts or Bigfoot in the public. It was like, oh, it's hushed. They might talk to you about it. You may go in and then they go, hey, I've got this thing in my closet, but they'd never say this out in the public. Thanks to shows like Ghost Hunters and things like that, and the popularity of it, it has kind of become more common. But it's in its infancy, this field of study and research. So to believe that you have the answers is pretty egotistical and arrogant. No one has the answers right now. all it is theory, and us doing the best we can to find answers for that. So by the guests we've had and the experiences we've had going around the country and firsthand experience at these locations, I like to think that we're kind of getting a database of our own, in our own hearts, our own minds, and through our shows. People that go and listen to Nightwatch at nightwatchradio.com, in the archive section, they can hear 10 years worth of research and theories from so many amazing people. Pretty much everyone in the paranormal field and beyond, scientists that aren't even, physicists, people who aren't even necessarily in the field of paranormal research have been on our show and have given a lot of theories and a lot of ideas that I think the truth lies in there somewhere. I think the truth is out there. To quote X-Files, I think it is out there. And I think we can, by working together with no egos and no attitudes, I think we can learn from each other. But there's so many people that sometimes block that from themselves by, like I said before, by basically just closing their minds to things, and also by being very egotistical and prideful, like, this is our location. You can't come here and investigate, because if you may find something, we want to find it. Who cares? Let's all find it together. No location belongs to anybody. Let's all work as a unit here, as a cohesive. I used to believe in the word unity, and I don't think that's necessarily something that can happen, because people are so egotistical and so sure of themselves that nothing else seems to work. But I'm telling you, I believe with all my heart that by all of us coming together like we do on Nightwatch every week, we can learn so much. I've already learned so much, changed my entire life, Well, one of the things that I've learned kind of the hard way, I had a heart attack, and I never drink, I've never done drugs, I don't smoke. I'm a nerd, I'm a straight up nerd, and I'll admit it. My vice is horror movies and Batman, I don't really do anything. So it was weird, because I had a heart attack and I literally had open heart surgery. I had quadruple bypass surgery, and then I had complications from that because they cut my lymph gland and they had to do a second surgery, laparoscopic. They said, oh, this one's going to be easy. 20 minutes, no problem. 4.5 hours later, I still was just coming out. I had a near-death experience. I'd never believed in those. I actually experienced something. I traveled somewhere. I flatlined briefly, and I didn't even find out about that until 3 weeks after the surgery. I finally was told what really happened. But I did flatline briefly. It was a scare. I scared everybody, and I didn't even know it, because as far as I knew, I was in the middle of a desert somewhere with these beings. I wouldn't want anyone to see them because they were weird. And I've spoken with shaman who have told me that these guys were ethereal beings. And they were kind of dark, scary guys. They had glowing, like, green ember eyes. And they were basically black outline, scraggly looking shapes that were kind of humanoid but weird. And they were telling me I needed to go in this tunnel that was to the right. It was a concrete looking tunnel going down into the sand. But on the left, I saw this Aladdin looking weird city in the middle of this desert. And I heard sounds from there and people, and I saw lights. And I said, I don't think I'm going there. That looks like may not be a good idea. I'm going to go here. Because I'm a rebel, I admit it. I do what I want. So I went down that hill and I went and started searching. I couldn't find any people in this place. But I finally, through all these doorways, found one that was cracked open and light was coming out. And when I went to that door and I opened that door, suddenly I was back in my own eyes in the hospital. It was the weirdest experience I don't even know how to explain it. But it's like I almost saw through the eyes and zoomed into them. And at that point, I realized a lot of the things that I thought were fantasy, or that in my field, I make horror films that are distributed worldwide, and that's one of my main focuses. I think I looked at all that as fantasy and as something that wasn't necessarily real. But after that experience, and the experiences I've had, like I said, at the Catacombs building, where a swinging rope bridge, it was a commercial haunted house, it was the Catacombs. And we had a rope bridge that would swing by itself at 3 a.m. and slam into the walls and things. And lots of things happened. I had a friend die there in my arms. It was a tragic accident. He was killed there in the elevator. I held him in my arms. But before that, there were all these weird warnings in that elevator shaft. Things like, our walkie-talkies would come on and spring to life, but they would be playing 30s music, like old, cracky, kind of 30s music, like the Flappers would dance to and things like that. And we had things falling from the top that would land in that elevator shaft when there was no lumber up there at all, but somehow it came flying. There was a lot of really weird things that happened that led up to after the tragedy and you looked back on it, I think they were signs. But you don't know that until retrospect. Again, another thing that kind of made me believe in all of this being real. And then after the near-death experience, I kind of put everything together. And since then, I've felt a lot more connected and a lot more sensitive. And it seems like I zero in on things really well. I'm not saying I'm psychic. I'm not even sure I believe in psychic. You know what I mean? I think people are intuitive, and I think everyone's born with a sixth sense that we just don't use anymore. Because if animals have it, why wouldn't we? We're mammals. You know, they say we're more advanced than dogs, but I think my dog's smarter in a lot of ways. My dog knows when a storm's coming, and I don't. I kind of do now because of my surgery, but I could feel it, you know? I feel when the pressure changes. But my dog knows when things are happening and I don't. Deer, you know, all these animals. I think humans have the same thing. And I think maybe after this near-death experience, it kind of woke mine up a little bit because I feel things and I notice things that I never really knew before. So on a personal level, yeah, I believe that thanks to Nightwatch, my whole world opened up. And I think without Nightwatch, when I had that heart attack, it would have been even worse. I mean, it was the scariest experience that you could ever imagine. It was terrifying. I thought I was never coming out. I was in the hospital a month and a day, and I thought I was going to die in there, honest to God. But because of Nightwatch, I wasn't. It was better for me. I was able to understand maybe where I was going a little better and what I might find there. You know, so I think it's very important to keep your mind open, keep your heart open, and your perspective open. And, you know, try to be just like a sponge. Soak it all in. And I'm not telling you to believe everything, because like with me and psychics, I'm still skeptical as hell. But I'm like, look, I can't say it doesn't exist, because in my mind, we are so small in this universe. Everything is possible. Everything is possible. We don't know a thing. We're just humans. And there's so much bigger, the whole universe. There's so much bigger and better than us everywhere. So we're a part of it, and we need to learn to be a part of it instead of blocking it. That's kind of my personal philosophy.